Hi everyone, this is Migs from Sneaks and Ball PH, and here we have Coach Carl and Tom, our resident sports analyst, and we will be talking about Game 2 and also looking ahead to Game 3 and maybe the rest of the series. So I'll just start things off. I expected the Heat to fight a little bit harder, and they did, but overmatched pretty much on the boards the whole game. And Miami's game plan kind of worked because the Lakers shot a boatload of threes. That is not how the Lakers play, and they ended up still winning because after every missed three, it seemed like AD would have another offensive rebound. He was 7 for 8 in the first half, 7 for 8 in the third quarter alone. LeBron pours in 33. You had Rondo making 3 of 4 threes. It was just, if I was a Heat fan, that was just really demoralizing. Kelly Olynyk played well. He had some questionable shots late, but he did what he could, spelling for Bam. And credits to Coach Juanito, he called this even before the game when we did our Game 2 look ahead. He said Myers Leonard's gonna play. He did play, but he didn't play a lot. So I want to know your thoughts on Game 2. So let's start with Coach Carl. What do you think was your biggest takeaway from Game 2?
Like you mentioned, I think all of us predicted that they would be fighting better in terms of Miami, and they did their game plan going in terms of getting the threes, getting forcing those kickouts. Since the Lakers do run slightly bigger ball lineup, it's not small ball since you have LeBron there and AD, so it's not technically small ball. But since you have LeBron and AD camping out to the perimeter, you get those nice drives you saw with Tyler Hero and Jimmy, that they got foul shots, and that kept them in as well. That since the Lakers were concerned with the 3-pointers, every time they would get opening, they would drive hard to the basket. And for the Heat, that was already, for me, that was their best shot in terms of keeping it close, because game plan wise, that was your best chance of just knocking them threes and then forcing the Lakers to miss. And that happened, but sadly, no two people could at least keep up with LeBron and AD. So that's it for me, I guess.
Okay, that's some good takeaways. And I mean, when you really analyze the game between the Lakers and the Heat, it's kind of simple. Just too big. And what about you, Dom? What is your biggest takeaway from Game 2 of the NBA Finals?
It just seems like the Lakers are in full control at this point. Like, even if Miami tries to establish a game plan, the Lakers just have an answer for it. Even if they go with what Miami wants them to do, which is take threes, they still make those threes. They could have made more, so there's that, but they still made a good amount of threes. And as both of you mentioned, they're just way too big. And especially when Miami hit that 2-3 with their bigs up in front, or at least their wings up in front, it just made it so much harder for them, to be honest. Because if you have Tyler Hero and like a Kendrick Nunn down at the bottom, how do you expect them to out-rebound the Lakers, especially with their size? So the Lakers just seem like they're in full control at this point, and it seems hard for them to lose this series or even lose a game at this point.
That's true, and Kendrick Nunn better take some classes from, I don't know, Dennis Rodman, Oakley, who do you want to put, Ewing, because that kid needs to learn how to box out. It was either he was getting a loose ball foul or someone getting an offensive rebound off of him. Yes, he is small, but just like when the Rockets were playing at their best, they were at least fighting, boxing out. And I think, Kendrick Nunn is just a rookie, so it's part of the growing pains, learning how to box out, especially boxing out bigger players. And another big takeaway from me was Jimmy Butler seemed a little bit... He was aggressive, but it wasn't as aggressive as I would have liked. There were many times where he was in the middle of the lane and he was really just looking to pass. I think he could have shot some of those, and maybe it's something that he can do more of in Game 3, which is, when you get into the middle of the lane, take some shots. You know, you are the best offensive option right now because they've been kind of keeping Tyler Hero in check, and man, Duncan Robinson has just been clamped on. He has been clamped on. I know he really loves Clay, but the thing that makes Clay really good is he has a mid-range and he has somewhat of a post-game. He really needs to figure out that in this league, you can't just be someone who just shoots threes.
Mhm.
So, you guys mentioned the 2-3 zone a while ago. So, Coach Carl, do you think the Miami Heat should stick to the 2-3 in Game 3? Or should they try something else? What do you think?
For me is that they're stuck right now. They're really stuck because if they go man to man with how LeBron, AD, Dwight has been playing, they're gonna get killed regardless on the boards. Now, if they go 2-3, Frank Vogel and his coaching staff of Kidd and Lionel Hollins have added a sprinkle of, instead of having LeBron be the main flasher in that 2-3 middle to break it, they're putting Rondo or Caruso there. Then you have Bron and AD flanking off or cutting. That allows them open space since they're going to be thinking like, yeah, Rondo is better as a scorer over AD, and then the open space allows them to attack. I think they're stuck, and I do not know how.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're just, in the common term is stuck between a rock and a hard place. So that's pretty much where the Miami Heat are. And Dom, my question for you is, I've heard this idea kind of floated around. Like if Bam is ready to go, if they could start both Bam and Olynyk, would that do anything, or would it just make things worse? What do you think about that rumor that's been, kind of floating around?
It could help in terms of the size, but Olynyk isn't necessarily that much of a big. He's tall. He can play some offense, but I don't see him still being able to lock down AD or Dwight on the boards. Bam is pretty much still alone in terms of that, and it might be difficult. If somewhat of a pairing of maybe Myers and Bam, that could help. But if it's a Kelly and a Bam, I'm not so sure about that. Kelly could produce on offense with Bam being there, but yeah, it's really about the boards right now, and the Lakers just have all the boards.
They are just killing them on the boards. So a look ahead to Game 3. Still not really sure on the status of both Goran and Bam. Bam's a little bit more likely to return, but still no update there. And I was actually kind of surprised that Bam didn't play in this game. But hopefully, we do want the teams to be at full strength when they face each other. So, there is no, quote-unquote asterisk behind the championship. But this is really a must-win for the Heat. You're not coming back from 3-0. No one's done it in NBA history, and I don't see it happening now. So, quick question, yes or no? Is this series over? Coach Carl, is it?
Yes.
And what about you, Dom?
Yes.
So, I picked them in 5, and both of you picked them in 6. Are we both wrong? Are we all wrong?
Well, with the terms of who's gonna win the series, no, we weren't. But I guess all of us were surprised that it would be as dominating as it has been so far.
And well, for me, I think it's because we didn't expect that the Lakers would just come out and kill them, because we were all so concerned that Miami was going to come out hot and just force them to play how the Lakers played both Houston and Portland, wherein they took away the post stops because they needed to run and match up with the speed. We didn't know that the Lakers were just gonna kill them inside. So yeah, we could be wrong in terms of the game we predicted, especially with Bam and Goran really looking uncertain for the rest of the series.
Okay, so I agree. It's just definite must-win time for the Heat. However, I do think that Game 2 was their best shot because Danny
Yeah.
Green missed the same three from the same spot in 3 consecutive possessions. KCP hit the top of the backboard on a 3. So if there was any time, it would have been a while ago. But let's see. Hopefully they can make it interesting because this series might be done in a few days, and guess we'll have a face mask and face shield championship parade in La La Land. So, and before we go, we did have a J.R. Smith sighting this game. We had one. How do you feel about that, Coach Carl?
Well, for me, I was surprised, but considering how Miami was playing at the time, I could not blame Frank for putting him in because JR could provide two things if he's in the right place, in right game shape. He can hit threes and he can play defense. So that surprise pull wasn't a bad move for me. It was a surprise, but it was at the time could be called for since the other guards were really struggling, and then Kuz was one of those bad Tuesdays of just bad decision making. So I can't blame him for putting in JR.
Yeah, and that no-look pass was rough, wasn't it, Tom?
Tragic Bronson.
Tragic Bronson alert. Shout out to Shaq.
The look,
TNT
the
crew.
look on LeBron and AD's face when they saw it way too out of their reach was like, we ain't picking you up. You deserve to get up.
Yep. So Game 3 is Monday morning here in the Philippines or Sunday night in the US. So we'll all be tuning in and hope that we have a nip and tuck ball game. But we never really know because there are no signs of life so far. So if you like the video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Then if you have any comments on our takes, if you have your own takes as well, please comment them down in the comment section down below as well. Then if you haven't already yet, please make sure to subscribe. It would help us out a lot here at Sneaks and Ball PH.